It is time for Donald Trump to be impeached. This dictator, this abuser is going nuts every single day. Al Green, let's see what he is saying here. Very, very interesting. Do not go anywhere.
In times of challenge and controversy, do you stand with the president who is behaving in an unlawful fashion as it relates to the Constitution? Or do you stand with the Constitution? Do you stand with the Constitution of the United States of America? This is where we members of Congress now have to make a decision. Are we going to stand with a reckless, ruthless, lawless president, or are we going to stand with the Constitution of the United States of America? Well, I'm proud to tell you that when we filed the last articles of impeachment, and I have filed many, I plan to file more just for edification purposes. I'll say more about that at a later time. But when the last articles of impeachment were filed, it was H-Res 939, and with these articles of impeachment, there was a vote. I believe that we ought to take a stand. We ought to take a stand. These are times of challenge and controversy. We were elected to take a stand in times of challenge and controversy. Yes, I know that it can put my career at risk. There are people trying to get me out of office, and they're doing a pretty good job. I never know what my next day will bring. But I do know this. I will have my record show that I fought all the way out. I didn't come to stay forever, but I did come to make a difference while here on the great issues of our time. So where do we stand? Well, on H-Res 939, 140 persons voted for H-Res 939. 140 members of Congress. 140. Not one from the other side of the aisle. 140. Members of who hold high positions, not calling anybody out. 140. And as a result, we have identified all of them in this document. This is my copy. But all 140 members who voted for H-Res 939 will receive a similar copy. And their names are all listed. And each person's name is going to be highlighted one time. And that one time will be the time that we will acknowledge this person as being in the document by highlighting the name. And that will be given to that person. Each person will have his or her name highlighted on the page when no other names are highlighted but that one person's.
Guys, Donald Trump has to go. He must be impeached. Donald Trump, even knows that he is losing it. And that's why he is trying to distract us every single day by doing some circus. Unbelievable.
He had something that many of the persons who did speak up did not have. He had something called courage. Many of the great intellectuals could expose and expound on some of the great issues of the time. But they didn't have the courage to take a stand, as Dr. King did, to go out into the public, into the streets, if you will, with protest, peaceful protest, to bring about a change in this country. And he did bring about a change. So today, on his birthday, I want to honor Dr. King by speaking from one of his quotes. He had many quotes that are quite quotable, to be quite honest, and it's difficult to single out just a few. But today, I'll mention a couple, but there's one that I'll focus on, the third one. He, of course, is known for having said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Injustice in Minnesota is a threat to justice in every other state in the Union. He didn't say that about Minnesota, but he was giving us the words to help us understand that what's happening in Minnesota, if it's an injustice, it can happen in your state. It can happen in Texas, my state. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I think that's probably one of his most quoted quotes. But then he also had one that's not quoted too often. This one is one that people don't like to associate with Dr. King because it speaks to his militancy in a sense. But it also speaks to things that people don't want us to do. We have a state that has as its motto, live free or die. Well, it's all right for a state to have that. But Dr. King's quote was, a man who hasn't found something worth dying for isn't fit to live. A man, a person who has not found something worth dying for isn't fit to live. Very few people will cite Dr. King for having said this. And by the way, I paraphrase a lot of what I'm saying in terms of his quotes. Man who hasn't found something worth dying for isn't fit to live. But the one that I'd like to quote today and say much about is his quote that deals with the ultimate measure. The ultimate measure of a man is the way he put it, but I'll be paraphrasing. The ultimate measure of the person is not where the person stands in times of comfort, when all of your bills are paid and you're living the high life. Not where the person stands in times of comfort and convenience, when everything is at your fingertips. You have at your fingertips all of the luxuries of life, all of the things that makes life worth living. the ultimate measure is not where the person stands in times of comfort and convenience, but rather, where do you stand in times of challenge? Challenge, when you have a reckless, ruthless, lawless president who is breaching the Constitution,
Wow.
who is doing things that we never expected to see in our lifetimes. Where do you stand when you have a president who is doing things within and without the country that we did not anticipate? Dr. King says the ultimate measure of the person is not where you stand in times of comfort and convenience, but where do you stand in times of challenge and controversy? Controversy because what he's doing is being justified by many people who stand in the corridors of power. What he's doing is being justified by members of the clergy who ordinarily would take the righteous stand. Where do you stand?
I'll tell you one short story. I had somebody commenting on my channel saying that Renee Good was a terrorist. Like, she was like, yeah, this is what happened to a terrorist. Like, I was like mind blown. How can you call somebody who's just going about her day a domestic terrorist? Well, you can, because you are a puppet of Donald Trump.
The ultimate measure of the man. Where do you stand in times of challenge and controversy? Let's talk about this. Where do you stand when the President of the United States has replaced Congress with corporate America? When the President of the United States will consult corporate America before he consults Congress? When the President of the United States goes into another country, Venezuela, bombs this country, consults with corporate America, but does not consult with the Congress of the United States of America? Where do you stand? Well, here's where the Senate has taken a position. Here's where the Senate stands. Let's first read what the Senate has in S.J. Res 90. This is a resolution brought before the Senate and has been voted on, but was voted down. So let's examine briefly an excerpt from the resolution. The resolution reads, joint resolution to direct the removal of United States armed forces from hostilities within or against Venezuela that have not been authorized by Congress. Remember, this is the president who consulted with corporate America, but not the Congress of the United States of America.
Well, because he doesn't care about anybody. He doesn't care about international law. He doesn't care about U.S. laws. He doesn't care. He believes that he is above all of this. He doesn't have to be accountable to anybody. He will pick and choose whoever he wants, put them in their positions, and make them do things that he wants them to do. Like, this guy is a complete and full-blown dictator.
Senate has this resolution, SJ 90. It continues. In the finding, Congress makes the following findings. I will read a portion of one. This is what Congress finds. This is the United States Senate. Congress has the sole power to declare war under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of the United States Constitution. Congress, the sole power to declare war. Goes on to say, Congress has not yet declared war upon or Venezuela or any person or organization within Venezuela. Friends, Congress, not having declared war, a president who has declared that he visited with corporate America before taking kinetic activity in Venezuela, where do we stand?
Well, I mean, he almost went to war with Iran. If he had the approval from the Israeli government, Netanyahu, he would have bombed Iran too. He doesn't need anybody's approval. This guy doesn't have to listen to anybody. What do you think, guys? Let me know in the comment section.